in Nakuru and Nairobi. We provide meals and accommodation. Sensei College. My skills, my future.
If you value it, insure it. Do you have a motor insurance policy? Do you know the claims process in case your motor vehicle is involved in an accident, damaged, stolen, or causes injury? Ensure to read and understand the terms and conditions of your motor policy document, the claims settlement process, and the documentation required to support your claim. Contact your insurance company, broker, or agent to obtain your motor insurance policy document and for any clarification on your motor policy. Now you know. IRA, promoting insurance, protecting the insured.
Don't let unwanted messages ruin your day. Take charge now. Opt out. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na ofisi ya Data Protection Commissioner.
Furahia maisha bora, linda jamii yako, linda biashara yako. Chukua bima leo. Tuna bima ya maisha, afya na ajali, mali hata elimu. Chukua bima leo. Linda jamii yako, linda biashara yako. Chukua bima leo. Tuna bima ya maisha, afya na ajali, mali hata elimu. Chukua bima leo.
Of July 2023. This is Sunday Express on KBC Channel 1. Now, government continues to maintain its stand when it comes to the implementation of the Finance Act of 2023. And men are missing in the conversation around family planning. Why is it important for men to take up family planning? That's a conversation we're going to be having tonight on Sunday Express. But before we look at what it means to have men actually taking up the family planning options that are available, let's have a look at those stories that have been making headlines. I am Regina Manyara. Six bodies of those who died in the Londiani accident are yet to be identified.
Lakini finance bill haikuanza mwaka huu, ilikuwa miaka yote, lakini ilikuwa inafanywa tu huko na chini na ukora na nini yetu. Tumesema tuweke kwa meza, waacha wa Kenya wajadiliane.
President William Ruto defends the Finance Act, terming it as a step towards Kenya's financial autonomy. And the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority is faulted for hiking fuel prices despite a court order barring the implementation of the Finance Act. Good evening, this is Sunday Express. I'm Regina Manyara and my sign language interpreter is none other than Anna Wangeshi. Now, 6 bodies from the Friday night road accident at Londiani that claimed 54 lives are yet to be identified. 36 bodies have been identified by families as burial plans begin.
Relatives of those who perished in the Friday night accident at Londiani continued gathering at the Londiani Sub-County Hospital mortuary on Sunday, hoping to identify their kin. While confirming that 54 people died, Kenya Red Cross Society Head of Disaster Management Dr. Michael Ayabei said 6 bodies are yet to be identified.
We have been able to close about 36 of them. There are leads to another about 12. But usually, as you might know, when somebody will report somebody who did not just turn up at home, and when they meet them, often they don't come back to say,
The Kenya Red Cross Society has at the same time donated a mobile morgue to Londiani Sub-County Hospital to ease congestion of bodies in its morgue exacerbated by the accident.
The mortuary only can host 16 bodies, and we have over 50 fatalities as it has been indicated. The request was if we could be able to provide mobile morgue, and I think last night we managed to bring the mobile morgue the way you can see it here.
Kipkelion East Member of Parliament Joseph Cherorot said a committee formed to assist with the funeral arrangements will begin meeting tomorrow at the governor's office.
On Wednesday also, the interdenominational pastors are going to have a service at the site, at the scene. So that is the plan that we have. As we move ahead, we are going to update you.
The accident happened when a truck which was headed to Kericho from Nakuru veered off the road, hitting 4 public service vehicles, 1 private car, a lorry, traders and border operators at a roadside market.
We'll be keeping tabs on developments that may arise from that. Now, President William Ruto has defended the Finance Act of 2023, saying it sets the country in the right direction towards reducing the burden of foreign debt and attaining financial autonomy. The head of state, who addressed the faithful at St. Mary's Catholic Church, Molo, Nakuru County, also stated that the law that was on Friday temporarily halted by the court following Okia Omtata's petition will ensure enough revenue is collected to implement the affordable housing program across the country.
While addressing congregants at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Molo, Nakuru County, President William Ruto defended the Finance Act 2023, saying it lays the ground for the country's financial self-reliance. Ruto said the newly enacted law will be instrumental in raising the funds to implement the Kenya Kwanza administration manifesto, especially the affordable housing program.
Hatua yetu ya kwanza ni kuja kujenga nyumba 5,000 hapa Molo, na tutaanza na nyumba za wale watu wanaishi pale Kasarani. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Na mimi narudi hapa mwenyewe kuja kuzianzisha.
I am a believer and I know that the future is urban. Na ndio maana unaona nilishika kabisa hiyo maneno yako, hiyo agenda yako ya housing.
Mtu mwenye anapinga finance bill, ningetaka nijue atakuwa wa dini gani. Kwa sababu finance bill iko vitu yenye tumetoa kwa Biblia. Yesu alisema, aliangalia watu akasema mimi ninaenda mbinguni. Na huko mbinguni sijaenda biashara nyingine. Naenda huko kuwajengea manyumba.
While praising his Kenya Kwanza MPs for passing it, the head of state also noted that more money had been added to the Hustler Fund Kitty, which is meant to benefit small traders.
Ile pesa mmekopa kwa Hustler Fund number 2 ni kidogo. Mnasikia kina mama? Wale muko kwa sokoni, niliwaambia tutawapangia pesa. Pesa inawangoja. Sijui mnajipanga namna gani?
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said funds raised under the Finance Act will be guarded against misuse or theft.
Huyu rais wetu alisema atapunguza bolea kutoka 7,000 mpaka 3,500, amefanya. Iko mambo tunapanga ya maziwa. Iko mambo tunapanga ya majani chai. Mambo ya viazi mumesikia. Mambo ya masomo iko.
Wale watu ambao watakuwa wakitumia mali ya serikali vibaya ama wataiba pesa ya serikali, mimi bwana rais naomba tunyonge hao.
Mimi sitaki kunyongwa. Kwa hivyo nataka niwahakikishie wananchi kwamba hela yote ambayo itakuja katika kitengele hicho ambacho ni cha affordable housing itafanywa kulingana na jinsi ambavyo inastahili.
The High Court had on Friday halted Finance Act pending a case filed by Busia Senator Okia Omtata, who argues that the involved in passing the law. Give us Manyara, Sunday Express.
On the same breath, a section of MPs allied to Azimio One Kenya coalition has criticized the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, for ignoring the High Court orders and adjusting fuel prices upwards. Vihiga Senator Godfrey Ososi, while speaking in Emuhaya, termed EPRA's decision as impunity, while Busia Senator Okia Omtata, who challenged the Finance Act at the High Court, has threatened to file a contempt of court against EPRA for disobeying court orders.
Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority is on the spot for allegedly disobeying a High Court order suspending the implementation of the Finance Act 2023. Busia Senator Okia Omtata, who sought legal redress on the Finance Act 2023, in a tweet threatened to file a contempt of court against EPRA for disobeying court orders. Similar criticism on the regulatory agency were made in Emuhaya, Vihiga County, where area Senator Godfrey Otsotsi demanded that EPRA respects the decision of the High Court and revise the fuel prices downwards.
Ambia ile shirika ya EPRA ambao wameongeza mafuta kwamba Omtata amepata orders ya koti, murudishe mafuta mahali ilikuwa. Munaongeza kodi ya mafuta na koti imekataa.
The ODM senator vowed to mobilize his supporters to protest on July 7th against the government.
Maoni ya wananchi, kwa sababu 90% ya wale watu walipeleka maoni walikataa hiyo kitu, lakini ile kamati ya bunge ikapuuza hiyo maoni ya wananchi, ikapitisha vile iko. Kwa hivyo hiyo kitu haiku meet the minimum standards of public participation.
EPRA revised fuel prices by at least 12 shillings to effect the 16% value Act 2023. Rishoke Washira, Sunday Express.
Now, the Ministry of Education has initiated a program that will now see an addition of nutritious meals added to the government's school feeding program. The program, spearheaded by the National Council for Nomadic Education in Kenya, also seeks to promote the use of clean energy technologies in cooking to save the environment from degradation.
Is this tree? The National Council for Nomadic Education in Kenya, NACONEC, is pushing for a 3-tier initiative to improve school enrollment and learning and reduce the use of firewood for cooking in schools.
If we have to go energy-saving jikos or even steam cookers, we have to consider briquettes, we have to consider gas, which can be biogas, which can be LPG. This is an example of a briquette that has been produced in one of our schools, where we have successfully managed to sell the idea of clean cooking technologies. And this one briquette is said to be able to cook for 3 hours.
NACONEC Deputy Director in charge of Quality Assurance and Standards, Kizia Wandera, said the use of clean energy will promote environmental conservation.
Besides the food, we are also addressing the nutrition part of it. And that is why NACONEC has worked with the World Food Programme. They have developed menus, and we have food ratios which have been determined and which have been seen to work over time.
Meanwhile, Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo and his basic education counterpart Belio Kipsang, who visited Mbita High School, have challenged learners to remain disciplined to shape their future.
Biggest thing that would make you go places is what we call discipline. And everywhere I get an opportunity to talk to students like you, I challenge you to be disciplined. It doesn't matter how sharp you are in class.
Be good mentors to your neighbors and colleagues, so that more schools, more of your own colleagues will come here to be supported, so that their schools and their children and their students can also benefit.
PS Omolo also urged educationists in the area to analyze problems facing learners such as school dropouts and prescribe solutions.
The students are like your sons. Yes, they can have their excesses, they can have their mistakes, but you owe it to them to handle them like your own.
Omolo was the chief guest at Mbita High School, where he led the school's alumni on a funds drive to upgrade and modernize key facilities at the school. Kamche Menza for Sunday Express.
Has given 10 million shillings.
On that note, we take a quick breather. We'll be right back.
Halo? Hello, Mike uko wapi? Kwa karibu kwanza Harambe. Tunajua mali John anaishi nyumba iliporomoka. Ana chochote.
Niliambia John hame kitambo sana. Hiyo nyumba haikujengwa vizuri. Ilikuwa na crack mwezi wa pili.
Tumsaidie. Alipoteza kila kitu. Fridge hadi patipati. Hata anaishi kwangu. Kwanza anatumia curtains kama blanketi.
Hata huko na engineer.
Juu ya kujaribu kusave shilingi 2, amepoteza life savings zake zote.
Kabla ya kuanzisha mradi wowote wa ujenzi, unatakiwa kusajili mjengo wako na NCA. Wasilisha ramani zilizoidhinishwa na ratiba ya wataalamu wa ujenzi utakaohusisha wakiwemo kontrakta na mafundi waliyesajiliwa na NCA. Wajibika. Jenga haki, epuka hasara, okoa maisha. Jenga haki na NCA.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial *570# wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial *570#. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above. Cheza Loto Moto.
Kesho ukija ndakupatia.
Na mama unitumie kale kana unafungua ni hivi. Kana
nyumbani.
Ni matofe.
Okay.
Sasa tuweke ole. Kisadoro.
Anakuja ole. Ole ndoro.
Wewe yake wewe. Sasa wewe hata sura yako anaweza tongoseka kweli.
Wewe ni mtu mzuri, lakini watu wako huko ndani masia. Hapana, siwezi kuendelea.
Naomba kwa niaba yake makosa mtu kama ule mwingine.
Sawa wapi? Utope. Unajua siku moja utangoa mtu scapula na hii vimpo yako.
Atataka kuchua hata kama itagotoa small intestine.
Good evening. You're still watching Sunday Express. Now, a section of women and girl rights champions is raising concern over the increased cases of sexual gender-based violence in the country and across the African continent at large, despite having laws that protect victims. During the Nala Feminist and Nala Femme Collective's second and Pan-African Summit in Nairobi, where discussions focused on justice, trust and accountability, it was established that governments need to work towards promoting innovation that will allow victims of sexual violence to access justice with ease.
Women and girls' rights advocates are calling for a collective approach to ensure that no sexual gender-based violence case goes unpunished.
We recorded so many cases, yet we don't see proactive response from the governing authority to actually stem this. And the way to stem it is to increase protection, but also give the right education to young boys and girls.
Sexual and gender-based violence rids you of human dignity and the very autonomy of existing as a complete human being. And although other priorities are important, it is important to bring it back to the top of our agenda because the work is not done. We are continuing to look at the data and to see violations, and these violations need to be addressed.
consecutive second Pan-African Summit in Nairobi, Kenya was lauded for establishing sexual gender-based violence courts, which are expected to deliver trauma-informed justice for victims.
Sexual violence cases are very peculiar, that the longer you take to address the victim, the more you find that the disinterest, the pressure for them to withdraw from cases, families are pressurizing victims not to go forward. So it's very important that we see the quick delivery of justice, because this is a very specific violation.
Stakeholders also raised concern over the safety of women in digital spaces.
Access to justice is something that needs to be considered holistically as a people-centered issue, so that we are supporting the parameters that have been put in place by actors and various agencies, that we are all drawing our resources and our focus in the pipeline or justice chain, that we are holding and uplifting institutions that are trying to do to seal the loopholes that we see.
Nalafem Collective is a multi-generational platform of women politicians and activists which champions for the rights of African women and girls. It advocates for 10 demands, 3 of which addresses ending sexual gender-based violence and ensuring survivors have unrestricted access to justice. Beatrice Gatranyangetich, Sunday Express.
Pastor Dorcas Rigathi has called on Kenyans to heighten their zeal for prayer and fasting for the economic prosperity of the country. Deputy President's spouse, who also cautioned against wholesome condemnation of the church, asking the clergy to stand firm in the face of intimidation and criticism. She spoke during a church service at the Jesus Celebration Center in Mombasa County.
We are going through very difficult times, and the only person who can change this whole situation is our God. And that is why you find we are in prayer, everyone is praying. And I didn't like our brothers, the Muslim, because they are just brothers from another mother of Abraham. We must pray for this nation. Everybody must pray for this nation. Everybody must get into the place where we ask God to turn everything around so that we can live in a good country. A good country can only be based in prayer and in connection with God. And that is what I've told the Pentecostals and the evangelicals. They should not be afraid to pray. They should be found in the place of prayer. They should be in the place of fasting. And I know many people right now are intimidated because one person may err. And perhaps it was about fasting. They go on the wrong doctrine of fasting. But we have had many fastings from the Muslim.
Residents of Laikipia County have been asked to join the National Health Insurance Fund to relieve the county of the burden of shouldering hospital bills through issuance of waivers. Elsewhere, avocado farmers from Gatondo North constituency, Kiambu County, are counting losses after thieves raided their news roundup.
In order to offer quality health services, the Laikipia County CEC for Health Albert Taiti said that people seeking waivers after being discharged from hospital admissions should be investigated to establish if they are genuine cases.
For us to be able to avoid these requests for waivers, then we need to get everybody into NHIF, and so that at least everybody can be able to benefit, whether from the public hospital, or from the faith-based hospitals, or even from the private hospitals, because NHIF and insurance is an equalizer.
Elsewhere, avocado farmers in Gatondo North in Kiambu County are a worried lot after thieves invaded their farms and harvested the fruits. They say the organized gangs have infiltrated the lucrative avocado trade in the region.
Kusija ila tuko nayo sana ni wezi wa avocado. Vijana wanakuja, hata vijana wazule wanakuja na bag, wanafuna avocado, wanaenda kuuza kwa kilo kwa broker.
Hapa tuko na shida ya wezi. Juu wamekuja wanaiba, wanakaa huku. Kwa nini? Ukitoka kaa kwenda choo, unawapata hapa, hata mnapatana na wao, unashida utafanya nini?
In the meantime, a section of tobacco farmers in Migori County is now considering planting alternative cash crops due to the health hazards associated with the handling of the tobacco leaves.
Wawili walikuwa wavutaji pia wa sigara. Sasa hiyo ili affect afya yao mpaka nikaipoteza hawa. Hapo ilinipea uzito ingine, walikufa, waliniacha na watoto wao. Mimi ndio sasa nashughulikia nazo hao watoto yao.
Elsewhere, tea factory directors from Zone 5 growing region in Kirinyaga County are up in arms over the exploitation of farmers by unscrupulous individuals operating private tea buying companies. Zone 5 comprises Ndima, Mununga, Kimunye, Dumaita and Kangaita factories. The concerns coming ahead of a tea conference to be held in Kericho County next week.
What they are doing, they are buying that tea at 25 shillings. And we have been informed by the directors and the chairman that hakuna factory hata moja, the last bonus haikulipa 50 shillings. So they are stealing 25 shillings from our people.
Finally, in Kisii County, a section of the clergy has swayed in the Religious Organization Legal and Regulation Review, saying it will support laws that guarantee freedom of worship. The Presidential Task Force, mandated with the task chaired by Reverend Mutava Musimi, is collecting views from members of the public countrywide.
Kanisa ni kampuni ya Yesu mwenyewe na Mungu. Kwa hivyo ule anafaa ulizwe maoni vile biashara yake itaendeshwa, nafikiri atakuwa ni Kristo Yesu mwenyewe.
Brandon Som reporting for Sunday Express.
Now, across borders, the grandmother of the boy killed during a traffic stop in France has told News Channel that she wants the riots to stop. She says that she resents the men who stopped and killed her grandson, but that doesn't mean she hates all other police officers. France has been rocked by 5 nights of violence, which has seen the attack and the injury of a mayor's family.
Nahil's grandmother has called for calm after a 5th night of unrest across France after her 17-year-old grandson was killed by the police. She has told BFM TV that she does not want people to destroy shops, buses and schools. She says the rioters are using Nahil as an excuse to cause. Elizabeth Bourne has condemned the mayhem, saying that no violence will go unpunished. She also condemned the attack on the home of Sabam Mayor Vincent Ginbran. Rioters fired rockets at the official's fleeing wife and children, injuring the wife. The incident has caused widespread shock and is being treated as a terror. Minister Elizabeth Bourne described it as intolerable. The Association of Mayors of Citizens and Mayors tomorrow in support of Vincent Ginbran. Overnight on Saturday, 719 people were arrested across the country. This is over 1,000 less than on Friday night. For Sunday Express, I'm Zainab Said.
That's a raging debate, especially on Twitter. We take a second breather, but we'll be back, especially with what is happening in the sporting arena. So do keep it right here.
Aviator instant game. Be a daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Nimetamani sana kuzungumza naye mama. Yaani siku hizi dadia anakufungia kweli.
Hebu jieleze kwa sababu mimi sina muda wa kupiga mahesabu nikajua hicho unachokizungumzia.
I think this time we should run.
Lakini jua kama mmeshirikiana na huyo kesi, tahadhari sana. Manake kimotoni.
Watakaje Kate? Huu karibu wako wewe na Dingu umeletwa na nini haswa?
I want to see you. You and I can create a world that is full of love, without much hate or resentment.
I don't know, Rodrigo. I don't know.
I'd never fall for someone like you. Do you even know why? I don't like you.
Leave me alone.
I swear you're a dead man. Well, this isn't the end. The truth will come out. Then you'll understand. You better get the heck out of this town. Las Bandidas.
It is the cup with the golden ticket. Mozart Bet Cup. 2 million shillings. CAF Confederations Cup. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet Cup.
A very good evening too. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to Sunday Express Sport. Robert Kipkemboi and Naomi Jebet are the winners of the second edition of the Nairobi City Marathon held this morning. Over 8,000 runners took part in the race, with the winners of the 42-kilometer event walking away with 3.5 million shillings.
Kipkemboi took the charge of the race from the onset, taking charge of the leading pack that comprised of Charles Yosei, Bernard Kipkemboi and Abraham Biwott. Kipkemboi widened the gap after 40 kilometers, completing the race with a time of 2 hours and 8 minutes, with Charles Yosei and Bernard Kipkemboi completing the podium dash.
Umefika mahali au hujui kwa namba utaenda fika mwisho. So ikawa tu uvumilivu ufike. Baada ya kufika ndio utajua position, lakini nadhani kuanzia kilomita ya 39 ndio ikawa kuna hiyo namba 1 alitoka.
The women's winner in the full marathon. Let's make some noise!
In another race, Naomi Jebet Sharon Arusho and Judith Cherubeth to second and third position respectively. In the men's 21-kilometer race, Uganda's Maxwell Rotich emerged victorious ahead of Vincent Kipkorir and Kennedy Kimutai, who came in second and third respectively.
Nafanya training and nilikuwa napiga kuanja mara mbili na nilikuwa najanganya na third leg.
The women's 21-kilometer race was won by Gladys Chepkorir, Susan Chambai and Nancy Chaplatin, who completed the top 3 positions.
As part of what we're bringing as the culture of Nairobi, the Nairobi Festival, we want to make sports part of that. We have many people with so much talent, but they've never gotten a chance. And people must also realize that sport is an economic frontier. It is not just for fun. It helps, you can earn a living.
The winners of the 42-kilometer race walked away with 3.5 million shillings. This Nairobi City Marathon came to an end today. 12,000 men, women and children turned up for the race to showcase their talents and aspirations. Reporting for KBC Channel 1 from Nyayo National Stadium, Nairobi, I'm Kingori Mwangi.
Thank you, Kingori Mwangi, for that report. Now, Wed Kilburn emerged as the overall winner of the 7th leg of the 2023 NCBA Golf Series held at the Par 72 Current Country Club. The tournament, which witnessed an impressive turnout of over 200 golfers, showcased exceptional talent and fierce competition, solidifying its status as one of the premier golfing events in the country.
Wade Kilburn secured the top spot with an outstanding performance, managing an impressive score of 76 gross points. His remarkable display of skills and precision throughout the tournament earned him a well-deserved recognition as the top contender. In the men's category, Paul impressive score of 77 gross points. James Ngodho followed closely, displaying his prowess on the course with an impressive score of 78 gross points. The women's category witnessed a thrilling competition, with Lausa Gitao emerging as a champion, achieving a remarkable score of 88 gross points. She beat Eunice Maranya on the countback, who scored similar points. Among the juniors, Amma Sheikh showcased immense potential, securing the victory with an impressive score of 81 gross points.
State golfers as we find in the world, but we must start them early. Indeed, I think I said here last year, and I still believe that in 10 years we'll have PGA players from this country. Is that these events tend to be family events. There's no better way to get families together than to get their kids on the golf course, I can assure you.
Following the carrying event, all eyes will be on Uganda's golf club as it prepares to host the 8th leg, which is also the first qualifier event in Uganda, which will also be first qualifier event in Uganda on 15th July 2023. It will then return to Kenya on 22nd July for the 9th leg, which will be held at the Royal Nairobi Golf Club.
Now, across our borders, Atletico Madrid are expected to make the signing of Chelsea defender Cesar Azpilicueta on a free transfer. Elsewhere, David De Gea could be the latest star to make the move to Saudi Arabia, as Al Nassr have offered him a contract.
Cesar Azpilicueta's move to Atletico Madrid from Chelsea is expected to be made official next week on a free transfer. The Spaniard has agreed to sign a 2-year deal with Atletico until 2025. Chelsea will let their captain leave for free as a matter of respect. Elsewhere, David De Gea could be the latest star to make the move to Saudi Arabia's Al Nassr. Received a contract over worth £290,000 per week from the club. In England, Manchester City are set to sign Barcelona's midfielder Frenkie de Jong as a replacement for their former captain Ilkay Gundogan. City ended their pursuit of West Ham's Declan Rice after Arsenal returned with a bid of £105 million and are now looking for an alternative to plug the hole in their midfield.
So that's the sport for tonight. And remember to join us tomorrow morning on KBC Channel 1. And that is for Sports Check. But before that, stories just come up. And have you ever had an interest in how the game is played and the rules of the sport? Well, this is a sport that requires accuracy, focus, and passion. Our sports reporter, Daniel Mwenda, visited Kenya Prison Darts team and compiled this report.
At the Nairobi West Senior Officers Mess, we find Kenya Prison's darts team and other invited darts players taking part in the Congo's Cup, doing what they love most. Every player armed with darts arrows focused on bagging the highest score. John Kipchumba, team manager and also a darts player at the Kenya Prison's darts, took us through the key areas of a darts arrows.
In the darts arrows, we have the plates. On the top of the plate, we have what we call a stopper that makes the plate be more stronger when you are doing the aiming. We have the shaft. This is what is holding the plates when you are doing the aiming position. We have the parallel. And we have the point, sharp point. This is where you hit the ball.
He also took us through various ways on how they do the score awarding.
This is the major dartboard when playing darts. You can see there is number 1 on the top and there is number 2 in the below. In the dartboard, you cannot make the numbers to go as per 1, 2, 3 to the last number 20. So it is mixed up of even numbers and double numbers. This is 60. You make another 60 and then you make another 60. When you find when you aim here and the whole darts arrows is here, that's a total of 180 marks. We have the eyeball. This is 50. We have the green one in the middle. This is 25 number. We have inside bling crown for the numbers. And we have the triples. When you hit, for example, red on 3, this is 3 times 3. You get 9 points. This is multiplied by 3. Here we multiply by 2. These are doubles. And this is where all the time we do like finishing power, finishing points.
And finally, what does it take?
Outside the doubles, there is no score. That's like a field of football. When you hit out, that is an offside or game, or the ball is out of the playing ground. Even in darts, when you hit out of the outside the doubles, that one cannot be counted as a mark.
And conclude that this is an easy game until you take a play on it, and then you realize that this game requires commitment, hard work, and passion. For Sunday Express, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Daniel Mwendwa, you'll need some more training from Mr. Kipchumba of the Kenya Prison's darts team so that you can get your accuracy right, because when you start a game of darts, it's all about, they call it the 180. And if possible, just get 3 darts onto that central the center spot of the darts board. That's 50, 3 bullseye, and you're in the game. And then there is something that is so close next to number 20, it's number 1. You might end up at a place called the Permanent House. So that's darts for you. And, you know, it's a sport that everyone loves. It's simple, anyone can play it. And I'll tell you, all you need to do is practice. My name is Daniel Wahome. Time for me to say that's it for Sunday Express Sport. And I can see Regina wants to probe me more on this sport. I don't know if Timothy could, you know, just give me that 1 minute so that I can answer Regina before she comes in with an interview on men and family planning. Timothy, kindly, just let Regina ask this question to me.
Well, and this is my question. From that particular story by Daniel Mwendwa there, before I introduce my guest there, who is Dr. Clive, to talk about, you know, family planning and the options available. You mentioned, or rather I heard Dan talk about offside. The offside that we mostly know, a majority of us, is offside in the football pitch or field. A bit about that, Wahome?
Actually, what Daniel Mwendwa was speaking with Mr. Kipchumba is, Mr. Kipchumba said if you go outside the ring of the doubles, which is the outer ring of any darts board, is that you don't get any score, which means that if you score from an offside position, it's not counted as a goal. So Mr. Kipchumba was referring to that as, it's like scoring from an offside in football. So ideally, you're supposed to be within the rings onwards. So, and remember, they are not arranged in a continuous numerical cycle like you'd have on a clock, you know, where you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until 20, but they spread them out so that you use a little bit of brains. And the best part is, go to the bottom half of the board. They call it industrial area in that speak. But that's it for the sport tonight. And so Dr. Clive Ogola, Program Manager, Service Delivery Reproductive Health Network Kenya, is going to be with Regina Manyara coming up next on the interview about men and family planning. I'm off. See you tomorrow morning, bright and early at 10 a.m.
It is the cup with the golden ticket. Mozart Bet Cup, 2 million shillings. CAF Confederations Cup. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet Cup.
From Daniel Wahome, who effectively introduced our guest tonight. That is Dr. Clive Ogola, who's a programs manager at Service Delivery Reproductive Network Kenya. And the conversation tonight is men and family planning. They are conspicuously missing from this particular conversation, looking at the statistics. Let's start from there. Why are men not participating in family planning?
Thank you, Regina. I think it's not that they're not participating,
okay, but
I think the level of participation that is still a bit low. Of course, it can be attributed to the various reasons, but in terms of male involvement, we've had significant improvement compared to the previous years. So I would say men are participating, but not fully.
Not fully.
Yes.
So let's look at the impediments, or what are these factors that are holding back men? You know, they're getting involved, but they're not actually taking it up. What is holding them back?
One of the reasons is, you see, the options that are available for men for contraception, for now we only have 2 options. We have the vasectomy, which is a permanent method. Then we have the use of the male condoms. That is what is currently available. So in terms of participation, we'll expect them to use any of those 2 methods. But then they still can support, even if they don't use those methods, they can still support the female counterparts to use the methods that are available for them, which we mentioned last time. So there are different reasons. One of them, we have a lot of myths and misconceptions about family planning, because then someone will say that in case maybe your spouse uses this method, they will go through these and these and maybe side effects and all that. Then the other thing is that we have a lot of culture don't use contraception. Then religious beliefs. There are religions that believe that the use of family planning, for instance, is not appropriate. And then also health-seeking behaviors. The people believe that when you use family planning method, maybe it's a gateway for maybe promiscuity or or things that are related to that. So there's a lot of myths, misconceptions, and misbeliefs that probably discourage men from getting involved in the use of family planning. Yeah.
Now, since you're talking about that gender, your gender, we had asked our viewers what's their take on the use of, family planning for men. And there was a curious and peculiar way in which the men actually responded to this. And the question was, would you use, use of male condoms within the family setup with your lifelong partner? And it was no. They said they wouldn't use that. And the question is, we pursued and asked them why they wouldn't. They said, I would only use if I suspected my partner of infidelity. But they would not use it otherwise. How then are we changing, people who are already in this particular, how are you changing that perception that the use of male condoms only, or rather is perceived to be used when there's a case of infidelity?
Yeah, and that is not entirely the case, because then there are different reasons why someone will use male condoms, even in marriage setup. One of them is as a contraceptive method. Two, it can be as a backup method. In case you've undergone vasectomy, you can use it as a backup method for a particular duration, like usually 30 days. But discordant relationships. So sometimes you use it not just for contraception use, but as a form of supporting your partner, so that you don't have to maybe experience certain things in life that you could actually avoid by using male condoms. So it's usually a perception issue and then acceptability. But once we give information, once someone gets information and digests the reason why someone would use a male condom, then it's something that they can take up, or we can take up. It's not really that you shouldn't use it in marriage. No, people have used it and people still continue to use it. And it's recommended in terms of dual protection against HIV, STDs, and then unintended pregnancies. So it's something that we should adopt and actually encourage its use.
Well, then there's need for a lot of education and information around that, because that's a general field. Now let's talk about emerging trends. You've said the only options is either vasectomy, which is permanent, and the use of male condoms. Yeah. Now let's talk about vasectomy. I have heard you say that there are times that you actually, as a doctor, would recommend the use of a male condom even after vasectomy. Does this mean that vasectomy is not effective, or why would there be such a situation?
No, vasectomy, actually, it's almost 100% effective. But then immediately after vasectomy, we encourage the use of a backup method, because then when you do vasectomy, it's the vast difference that is cut. But then the sperm will still be in the vessel. So then you use the condom as a backup, so that at least you complete the ejaculations. That usually recommend 30 ejaculations after a vasectomy. So instead of maybe abstinence, you'll use vasectomy as a way of backup, so that at least the semen that are still in the vesicles can still expel through the use of condoms. That's why it's purely encouraged, not because it doesn't work, no, but it's because of we expect that at least the 30 ejaculates should be out, now be purely effective, 100% effective. But
what is the uptake of this particular procedure, and how long does it take? Is it a walk-in, walk-out kind of surgery? How long for it to?
So in terms of statistics, in 2021, we had almost around 300 men going for vasectomy in Kenya. Then in 2022, we had 500. But before that, we had almost 600 in 2018 and 700 in 2019. Then we had a bit of decline. And now, 2022, going onwards, we've had like some increase in trend. So I think more men are taking up vasectomy because of its benefits that are scientifically proven. And then in terms of the other question was about of course, the number.
Is it a walk-in?
It's actually an outpatient procedure. So usually it takes like 15 to 20 minutes. So you just go under local anesthesia, then maybe the doctor or the surgeon will play for you some music, so at least you get distracted during the procedure. And then after that, you rest a bit and you're able to walk back home. Yeah.
Wow.
With no complications if it's well done. Yeah.
Well, that is a relief. What you said that there were benefits of actually undergoing vasectomy. What are they?
One of the benefits that a man will get or a family will get is the peace of mind that you've had your desired family size and you do not want any more children because you feel that what you have is enough. And of course we know the current times, the cost of living. So then you have a peace of mind that you intercourse without worrying about unintended pregnancy. That is the utmost benefit of using vasectomy. And then also the other benefit is that you'll be able to support your partner, because then most family planning methods are for the female. But then we know that they have side effects. So in case you use a vasectomy which is permanent and no side effect, then you'll be able to support your partners that they don't have to undergo the side effects of family planning at different times of their usage. So those are some of the benefits that you'll say when you're using vasectomy. It's outright. You do not expect like your counterpart to conceive when using vasectomy. So it's an outright benefit, and then effectiveness is almost 100%. So that means you'll not have to worry about other things when you're using vasectomy. Then also, when you use vasectomy, you don't have to go back to the doctor or to the midwife or to the clinic like for review, like when you're using injector plan or implants, because once you go and it's done, you don't have to go for any review. So it actually saves time, saves energy, and also saves resources when you're using vasectomy.
How accessible is this particular procedure and affordability of it too?
Yeah, in terms of affordability, actually it's not so expensive, because then it depends on also where you get it. So then you have a specialist procedure where you go to a gynecologist, they will do it for you, maybe around, depending on the organization, it can be around 10,000 or less. But then we also have organizations that support the use of vasectomy. So in that case, you can just walk in. Sometimes you don't even have to pay any amount. We have several organizations that support the use of family planning. So you'll have an appointment, book, they explain the procedure, then you get consent, and it's done. So in terms of cost, it's not expensive. It's not an expensive procedure.
Now, still beyond cost, because we see in government hospitals, we are seeing programs where women get support to actually take up contraceptives, paid or rather even under the NHIF. Is vasectomy the procedure payable under NHIF?
One of the challenges that we've had over time is in terms of course, we are aiming at universal health coverage. But one of the challenges we've had is about contraception generally, in terms of NHIF, but even private insurance. I think they've been laxity in approving the payment for family planning, which is something that as RHN and other organizations we are trying to push with the government and with private insurance. At least it's something that can be covered under private insurance. But currently it's not yet paid. But then there are donors that support in case you want to undergo vasectomy. They support in terms of equipment, they support in terms of medical supplies, and even in personnel. So that's why the costs are low for NGOs that deal in family planning. But then in private setup, in case maybe you walk into a hospital, the costs are a bit high. So it really depends on where you get. But in terms of availability, it's readily available. It can be done by a doctor, a gynecologist, or a surgeon. Those are people who can easily do vasectomy, and you'll not get any complications. Yeah.
Are there preconditions viable for vasectomy and work against another preconditions that block you out?
Not necessarily, but you see, one thing is it's surgery. So maybe we are going to use a local anesthesia. So you need to be fit for procedure, because before you get any surgical procedure, the doctor has to check your vitals, check your blood pressures, check that you are in a fit medical condition, do blood workup, and see that you're able to undergo this and accept without any complications. And then the consent is also usually very important. Yeah, so it's something that you can walk in, but then we need to do few screenings, at least we are sure that you're fit for the procedure.
I know you mentioned and said that this is a procedure that a man can undertake after they have had a conversation within their family setup, that this is a family size that we want. There's always this question, you've said it's permanent, but I think our viewers need to hear it again, that this is a permanent procedure. You cannot reverse it.
Yeah. The vasectomy is a permanent method. So that means you need to have the conversation and make a decision that now we want to have 3 children. And then so we've achieved or attained the desired family size, so that you don't come back saying that I would like to probably reverse it, because then it might not be possible. Yeah, so, but then of course sometimes with technology there are different methods, but usually the one that we do currently, it may not be reversed. So you really need to have the discussion and think through it, and even when you go to the doctor, the sessions of counseling, they have to tell you that this one is not reversible, and you need to be sure that you've attained the desired family size before you go for vasectomy. Yeah.
Well, we'll be back to have this conversation and find out what various organizations are doing to ensure that men get involved in as far as matters of family planning are concerned, right after this break.
sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial star 570 hash wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial star 570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza responsibly. 18 years and above.
Cheza Loto Moto.
사실은 어떤 게?
진짜 모릅니다, 사장님. 정말이에요.
아니 왜 풀어주는 겁니까?
영장은 왜 안 떨어진 겁니까?
담당 검사 바뀌었대요.
심장파.
Good evening. You're still watching Sunday Express, and the conversation is around men and family planning. Doctor, before we took a break, we were saying that vasectomy is at this moment in this time, irreversible, and it's a conversation that partners need to have and have it well thought out, and even recommended counseling. Question is, full disclosure. Some men do not tell their women that they have undergone that procedure. What's your take on that?
Because, when you're using contraception, there's need for a lot of social support from the partner. So it's good practice to agree on the use of any contraception. So one is that you need to agree that both the husband and the wife agree that this is the number of children that we want. So then you can decide that we now get a permanent method. But if you do it without the consent of the other partner, then it might not work well, because then sometimes you can have different family desires. But where you work together, because then you need to work, you play for the same team basically. So you need to support one another and agree that this is the number of children that we might want. In case there's a difference in the number, then you can harmonize and agree that maybe we reach a point of compromise and see that this is what would work for us. Because then if you do a vasectomy without involving the other partner, at some point they'll get to know.
Stereotypes, the impediments to uptake of family planning, not just for men but also for women. As an organization, what are you doing to deal with these issues and others that are having men missing out from this conversation? What is being done?
What we've done is we've done a lot of male involvement drives where we get male champions. Male champions are people who have used maybe vasectomy, and they know the benefits of vasectomy, so they go to the community and talk to the people about the benefits of using family planning. But we've also used various leaders. We've used cultural leaders to address the cultural barriers. We've used religious leaders. Actually, we had a conference where we brought religious leaders to talk about the need to involve and need to understand the scientific benefits of using contraception, as opposed to maybe opposing a method without any scientific bias, because then this is usually scientific, so you need to have a scientific reason if in case you want to maybe go against. We've also used political leaders to advocate for the use of family planning and use of even vasectomy, for instance. So those are some of the interventions that we've done. But we've also made some of these services, contraception methods, available to anyone who will want to use them as long as they meet the eligibility criteria. So we've done that. We've also had conferences where we take stock of scaling up the use of contraception, managing the unmet need, also even the maternal mortality rate and all that. So we've really had some of those talk-taking ventures through conferences. We had one just recently in Kwale where we brought over 500 people to discuss what are the next steps in case we are to go forward as a country.
I'd want maybe to pick your brain on, how you have surmounted, issues of religion, because that was a debate that we've had in this country with a section of leaders saying, we are pro-life. Contraceptives is, we do not want our people and our congregants to actually take that. How is that conversation going?
You see, there are things that, of course, we have political reasons, religious reasons, cultural reasons, but then by the end of the day, it comes back to you as an individual, because then it's, I would say, of course, I'm a Christian, but then you'll not get your pastor coming to your home to pay your bills. So if it's something that you need to address, because then information is readily available. Okay. Of course, we have to obey the religion, but then science is also there. You need to go look for information and say, in case someone says that you can't use this method because of this reason, is it scientifically proven? Very brilliant people that you can get information, even if it's not from maybe a particular group, but then you can get information and make your own decision. Even when you go to a hospital, the doctor or the make the decision after getting the right information about a method. So, but we've also worked with religious leaders to at least tell them the benefits
of taking up
this
particular option.
Yes.
Now, in general, there's a question and an issue of quality assurance when it comes to contraceptives, especially for women that are sold over the counter. You're a doctor working in a private organization as such. How then is this, working against, the uptake of, contraceptives or other family planning methods?
I think actually one of the things that I do at RHN is quality of care in members that we support across the country. So then we ensure that at least anyone who provides some of these services provides them at the best quality, that you do not get complications. We have regulatory bodies that govern most of the, if it's doctors, it's KMPDC, if it's the nurses, if it's pharmacists, they are all regulated. So before you offer any method, you need to be accredited. You need to go through and capacity building, so at least whenever you give any method, you do not give it and then someone gets complications or infections after the procedure. So then there are methods that are given over the counter, like pills can be prescribed, but then even if it's prescribed, then they need to go through the eligibility criteria, because there are people who may not qualify for pills. So whoever offers these methods must scrutinize and ensure that someone who gets enrolled in a family planning method meets the eligibility criteria. Eligibility criteria is defined by WHO, so that you do not just give someone a method and yet there are contraindications. So quality assurance is very, very important, because one of the reasons why sometimes people maybe are discouraged from using family planning is because sometimes they don't tell them about the side effects or the complications that come after maybe an insertion or maybe an injection. Yeah, so once you focus on quality of care, then it really will help even build numbers.
Then does it mean, Daktari, that maybe that's one of the reasons why you're taking a certain contraceptive method, but you still end up getting pregnant?
That comes with, there are different reasons to that. One is that the screening. You see, before you get a family planning, we have to be sure that you are not pregnant at the time of initiation. Yes. But then sometimes maybe someone could be 1 or 2 weeks pregnant. The provider does not do proper screening. So then after maybe 1 month, they come out that they're pregnant, not because of the failure of the method, but because they were already pregnant before initiating the method. So then we have criteria that are used before you start any family planning. But one is that you need to be reasonably sure that someone is not pregnant, or you have to be sure, like within the first 7 days of the menses, that is the time that will be recommended. Yes, so that is some of the things. So you need to really screen and be sure that someone is not pregnant before. But then, like, there are methods that we say are 98% or 99%. That means out of 100 women, 1 could probably conceive, or out of 100, 2 could probably conceive. So then we say they are not 100%, but sometimes it's because of the screening gaps that...
The screening gap. Daktari, I know you're a doctor, so you'll always side with your people. But then we have seen raising cases of, women or families at large, actually, as we come to a close, going further and even suing their medical practitioners because of failed family planning methods. Just 1 second, your take on that?
That might not be the fault of a provider, for instance. if maybe it can be a technical gap, but it could also be method, because now, like I said, we have like 1 out of 100. It might not be the fault of the provider, or maybe the provider did not do proper screening, like I said earlier. So it might not really be a provider issue, but it can also be a method failure, or even the client dependent. Maybe they didn't come back in time for appeal, and
yeah, things happen. Well, that brings us to a close of this conversation tonight with Dr. Clive Ogalo, who's a programs manager at Service Delivery Reproductive Network Kenya, saying with the two available options as of now for men when it comes to family planning is the use of condoms and vasectomy. For the men to support the women in their lives, take up family planning options. I'm Regina Manyara. You've been watching Sunday Express. I wish you a pleasant evening ahead.